All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome. Excited. We've got folks joining on LinkedIn. We've got folks joining here on Zoom as well. So hope everyone's having an amazing day. It's kind of nice with Zoom now. You can broadcast to multiple channels and get more people out there who maybe didn't sign up. So what's up? If you're joining us from LinkedIn, we'll be monitoring the comments. If you're joining us here on Zoom, we'll definitely be looking for some Q&A and questions, etc. And really excited for the conversation with the team at Slintel today. Really talking about contact, sales intelligence, all these different things that sales organizations are using literally on a daily basis, tens and hundreds and thousands of times a day, and like what's working and what's not. I think for a lot of teams in particular, right now one of the biggest challenges, and we're going to dive into this, that I see is just we've got this obsession with just like we need more contact information, we need more things to reach out with, etc. And the reality is, for many times, it's not more. It's different than that. And so I'm excited for the conversation, the discussion today around, really how to optimize performance with your, and again, like sales intelligence platform. Whether that's an intent platform, whether that's the contact database, et cetera. And so, really looking forward to the conversation. And yeah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well too, we can, I'll kind of jump in into some of the questions.
Sure. Thanks, Jake. And hi, everyone who's listening us from any of these sources. My name is Anupreet. I lead go-to-market for Sixth Sense in India. I was a part of sales intelligence products Little that recently got acquired by Sixth Sense, so I do understand more about this space, than the average OE. But I also really want to talk about things that are absolutely wrong with the users of sales intelligence and how the expectations of sales intelligence users is to get more emails and more phone numbers. But what I actually want to tell you today in the next 50 minutes is you actually need opposite of more emails and more phone numbers, because with everything that's going on in the industry with compliances and with how Google and Outlook are changing their rules and regulations around deliverability. What you need is actually very few accounts and very few emails and phone numbers that you can absolutely laser focus on and get your targets done through just that. So I think if you have managers who are counting the number of activities that you're doing every single day and you just being evaluated on the number of activities every single day, I think you need to get your managers on this meeting and you need them to listen to this because I think I might be able to change their perspective about how they're looking at prospecting right now.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think it's difficult, right, for a lot of leaders, and let's just call this what it is. For every salesperson who's tuning in or sales leader, the reality is most of us, myself included, we grew up in a sales environment where we said, well, hey, if you do 100 activities, it gets you X this, which gets you X meetings, which gets you X opportunity. And what we're seeing is that a lot of the activities that sales teams are doing now, that worked, right? We used to have one channel and it was the phone. So it was like that was it. It was 100 calls. I mean, that was your own. There was no data or intelligence. And then we had email, and again, it was still very one-to-one. It's like, look, I'm emailing you, and now we've got LinkedIn, and now we've got gifting, and now we've got all these different things to where it's not that simple anymore. And I think for a lot of leaders, what I hope coming out of today is you'll maybe rethink the old I call it the predictable revenue funnel metrics, which are like, because a lot of activities that teams are doing are not necessarily one-to-one, or we just have access to better information. So why are we doing it that way? And so, Anupreet, that kind of leads me to my first question is, where do you feel that sales teams go wrong? Like, where do you feel like, sales organizations, get it wrong? I see you're back now. All right, good.
Yeah, I think it starts right from where I was, going towards, which is, fundamentally we've been evaluating sales teams on their number of activities, and I think that's where the problem starts. We're optimizing on reaching out to more people. We're optimizing for reaching out to anyone and everyone who comes through our way. Be it on communities, be it on within our TAM. Historically we've just focused on TAM. When I speak to managers and I ask them their TAM, they actually end up telling me their entire region that has been allocated to them. So usually my conversations with SDR managers is like, hey, what is the TAM that you're focusing on
Yeah.
in this quarter? And they end up telling me, hey, I'm focusing on West as a region and more than 50 employees companies. And I'm like, hey, that is potentially 200,000 companies. What are you actually focusing on? And most of the times they struggle to tell me, if they've done any kind of science behind the accounts that are most likely to buy from them in a particular month,
Yeah.
and are looking at any of those signals. And I'm not talking about paid signals. I'm talking about some freely available, publicly available signals that you should at least look at before you go about prospecting into the list that you have. But historically, what I know is that you are giving accounts in advance to
Yeah.
people, and you're just dividing those accounts on the basis of a big list that belongs to your territory. So your territory has 200,000 leads, 200,000 accounts, and you have 10 BDRs. You just split them equally and you're done. You think, that's what it is. And then BDRs are just calling randomly within those accounts without really looking at any kind of intent signals. That is what is leading to spam. And that's why response rates are so low, and we're settling for a 2% response rate or a 4% response rate. And the real reason is that you're
Yeah.
just praying and praying. And we're in 2022. There is so much tech available in the market. There is so much information available in the market. We can't do what was working out in 2014, 15, 16, with our prospecting efforts. So I think that is what is going wrong.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like, I mean, here's what I think. I think sales leaders, you grow up, our world is advancing so quickly. And I think what I see is that a lot of sales leaders, one, you kind of tend to repeat the sins of the father, right? Which is where you learn to be a sales leader, you learned one way. And the other big trend that I see is that these technologies are just advancing so fast that before you might be like, yeah, we've tried predictive, we've tried sales intelligence. And then, but guess what? These tools are completely different. Definitely 6 years later, but 4 years later, 3 years later, 2 years. These tools are evolving, and technology is evolving at a rate that I think most sales leaders, they do a couple of things. They outsource their knowledge to their sales ops team. And sales ops can't keep up either, right? I mean, look, we're a sales consulting firm, so that's our job, is to stay on top of all these technologies and best ways to implement. We're a user of Slentel, I'd call us a power user, and the gap that I see is like sales leadership really has to appreciate that, man, things are just moving faster. And that, yeah, you might have looked at sales intelligence or these, predictive channels before, and candidly, like, some of them are just bullshit. They weren't like real true intent signals or any of these things, but man, these tools are evolving. And so, to kind of piggyback on that, like, how is this being used ideally? So I know that these tools are evolving. I see them being more effective in teams that are using them. So Anupreet, how do you see an ideal world? What is like,
Yep.
this is how you should think about it, to where it's not BS?
Yeah. I think in an ideal world, you should be where your buyer is, and you should learn about your buyer as much as you can. And these sales intelligence tools should help you understand your buyer inside out more than anything else. I think intent scores and everything else, even we have intent scores, are more gimmicky than the real technology behind it. What I mean to say is that if a company just gives you an intent score, doesn't really tell you how they came up with this intent score, you don't have enough information. You can't
Well,
trust.
they attended a webinar. I mean, that's, what more high intent could they be than they attended a webinar? I'm
I
kidding,
mean,
by the way, just so everyone knows. That's sarcasm.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of intent companies are just telling you that, hey, according to us, this company has an 88 intent score, but
Yeah.
just stop at that. They don't tell you how have they calculated this intent score. Does that really mean that they're looking at my competitor? Does that mean they're looking at G2 reviews? Does that mean that they've bought an integration technology that your company works with, or does that really mean that their renewal with the current competitive vendor is coming up? Or is it really just the fact that they've attended a webinar, right? Around something like this, or they've just read a Forbes article around top 100 CRM providers, and now they're giving you an 88 intent signal around the fact that the company will buy you. I mean, any
That's
company
right.
that tells you that just one layer of insight is enough to have intent is probably just promoting their personal brand and their personal product. I think you
That's
need more
right.
than one intent signals to get to what you need to. And intent basically is nothing sci-fi, to be honest. Intent is just a dictionary word that this account has higher intention to purchase from you. And just look at it from that perspective, right? For your
Yeah.
product, let's take an example of Chili Piper. As a salesperson of Chili Piper, a company that has a book or demo form and is not automating meetings from their book or demo form, are actually asking people to fill a long ass form, potentially are customers that are showing intent that they need Chili Piper. Now layer
Yeah.
number of users, number of new MQLs that they're potentially adding every month, layer their Alexa rank on top of that that this company potentially has a lot of MQLs coming in, but they're asking their each and every user to fill up a form. And then add technographics to it, which is, hey, they were using Calendly, but they're not using anything anymore. You integrate really well as Chili Piper. You integrate potentially with Salesforce, and you integrate with Slack, and they're using both Salesforce and Slack coming in from technographics. So you layer one signal over the other, and then you build up that intent score, and then you explain the salesperson that this is why the score is what it is right now in front of you. That is
Exactly.
basically your general knowledge about your buyer that is driving the intent signal, and you can buy into it. It is nothing more than fact. So you don't have to believe in the fact that intent is sci-fi, and all we'll tell you is the intent score, and we'll not tell you how we calculated that intent score, but you trust us. You have to reach out to them. Your sales intelligence provider need to just make you more informed and more intelligent
I
about your
love that.
buyers, and that is basically what intent is.
I love that. And the other thing you talked about there too is like, I think version one of intent, and maybe I'll go back in history for a lot of people just so everyone understands. Version one of intent was this. And again, Case, let me just open up the kimono for you. Here's what happened. There was a company, and I'll just Bombara. They're one of the first. There are other people doing it. What they did is they went around and got their website cookies on like 20,000 publisher sites. I'm talking random ass sites, like and big sites too. Then, just so you know, like what's available and just how much your privacy is not real. Okay, it is easy for me to look up the VPN, like the computer signature of people that work at specific companies, because their VPN signature is very similar. And then you can actually then triangulate to different departments. So I want to tell you what intent data, these are the facts, my friends. How people are telling you intent data is somebody from one of these VPNs that they know is an IBM marketing department is pinging one of the sites where they have their cookies, and now they are telling you that IBM marketing read an article about sales transformation, and they're saying intent. So my friends, if you want to know how a lot of third-party intent data works, like that's it. Or they're using affiliate sources to find people that download content on a topic, which is no similar than them coming to your website and downloading a white paper. And so for a lot of people out there, I think third-party intent in particular, just know that it's not a person. They're not saying John Smith who works at this company. They're saying basically we know from experience that this is probably their marketing department, could be an intern. Somebody's researching a topic. And so for those of you who don't know what a lot of third-party intent is, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's not this one-to-one intent of your target buyer. And that's why I really like your definition, which is it's a combination and it's transparent to say, hey, look, maybe there's something here. And then when you combine that, I think of it the difference between like the mix of first-party intent, that you have from your own data and third-party intent. When you kind of like mix these things together, you actually do start to get a really good picture of like, level of intent. So, again, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but just for anybody out there who's kind of wondering around third-party intent, that was the foundation for where a lot of it was built.
Absolutely. And I see a Q&A out there. Is it okay, Jake, if I answer it right away, or
Of
do
course, I
you
love
wait?
Q&A. Yeah, hop in.
Yeah, awesome. So I think the question is about, a lot of intent and technographic signals out there are at an account level. What kind of intent signals should we actually look at a person level? So at
Exactly.
Slintel, we've actually mapped technographics to people as well. And how we've done that is that we've basically, we've been able to create a graph around tech and people while they were at that company. So let's say we know that, in your previous company, you were in the sales department and the CRM that the company was using in that period was Salesforce. We can actually tell that you as a person have used Salesforce in the past. So as a Salesforce sales guy in your new organization, if you're not using Salesforce, my email subject line will be, hey, do you miss Salesforce? Question mark. Because I know that for the last 5 years, you were in an organization that was using Salesforce. So at a person level, I know that this person, because of the department that he or she was in part, he or she is a part of, and the timeline at which, the company was using Salesforce, it really matches. And your new company is actually not using that particular tool that I sell. So it is possible to relate technographics at a personal level, but that's a lot of effort and not many companies are doing that. So I really understand why you see that pain with most of the companies. And intent, just like how Jake described, when you say intent, I'm potentially thinking that you're talking about search intent in particular. And search intent, what Bambora offers cannot go beyond an account level unless you layer it with more intent signals from other companies. And some companies, like my own parent company, Six Sense, has taken Bambora's data, added a lot of other intent signals to it, and made it a lot more powerful. So Six Sense would be one of the classic examples of a company that can actually go to a person level as well, but not through your regular search intent only, because search intent, as Jacob
Yeah.
described, is only at an IP address level. So through IP address, you can't really tell who the person is, right? So you can only at best tell you which location and which company does the person belong. And that too, when you're working in your office, right? If you're working out of your home, you have the same internet. One person works at Salesforce, the other person works at fresh
Yeah,
sales. You
exactly.
just can't tell. You just can't tell, which company is
We're
showing
both
intent.
interested. The HR department at this and the sales department at this are both
Yeah.
interested in benefits
Yeah. And that
technology.
wastes some more time for BDRs than
That's
anything else.
such a
Now,
great call out, man.
yeah.
Honestly, man, I don't know why I didn't think of that before. It's like, holy, yeah, like how, man, this data is even more terrible now with like, unless I guess, yeah, if you're using like a certain VPN through like your computer, man, that's a really good call out. So, 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 again, like one of the claims, and we put this in here, and I won't call it a claim. We'll say one of the promises of Slintel and other tools too that are, trying to do a better job of this. I would just say before I'm gonna ask you a question, and then I'll make kind of a quick statement. I think, look, sales leaders, you have to think about this, and I did a post about this morning too, which is we have most TAMs are literally defined by job title. Every seller, every VP of sales and CRO knows something very simple, which is like a director at one company could have 50 direct reports, and a director at a similar size company in a similar industry, maybe everyone's titled director and could have 0 reports. And I think for a lot of you out there, like right now, most organizations, the way that they're doing sales intelligence is based on job title. It literally is. It's job title and then maybe some other stuff. When you try to say about weeding out 97%, and I know you guys believe in this too, like, look, guys, job title is just not good enough. How do what are some of the other aspects? Like, how do you help me to get to that 3%? Whether you talked a little bit about this, like different ways to find real purchasing or buyer intent, other technical, again, you kind of like flirted with some of this stuff, but maybe you can go a little bit deeper into like, how do I get past just job title to really understand, best fit now, or maybe
Yeah.
propensity to have best fit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll go back to the example that I was giving, wherein a particular manager might be having around 200,000 accounts in his broader TAM. Now, it's about how for a BDR, you can come down to somewhere around, let's say, 100 accounts that the BDR can target for this quarter. And how do you do it intelligently, right? How do you make
Yeah.
sure that these 100 are the top 100 for this quarter? I truly believe that all these 200,000 accounts can potentially buy from you at some point of time. All the best for that. But
Yeah.
you definitely shouldn't be targeting all of them this quarter. Who has the highest propensity to buy from you in this particular quarter. How would I do this analysis is how, we've made sure that sales intelligence tool that we provide also works, right? And any sales intelligence tool basically who can solve for this for you, you should potentially use that, right? So from 200,000 accounts that belong to your TAM, which is the broader TAM, which is, let's say, 200,000 leads, because we were taking an example of titles. Let's say there are 200,000 leads that really can buy from you at any given point of time. You first figure out of all of these accounts and the leads that you have, which ones fit your, which ones are emitting signals that are kind of showing that they will buy your product, not buy any product, but your product in particular. So let's say, your product really requires an integration with one of these three CRMs. So out of all of these companies that these 200,000 people work at, remove all the companies that don't use one of your integration products.
Yeah.
So that is where you layer in the technographics intent. So let's say you integrate with Salesforce and HubSpot, and someone is using anything beyond these CRMs, you just don't want to talk to them because your integration is either not so strong or does not even exist. So all the companies that are using Salesforce and HubSpot, you keep them in your tab, but you remove all of them. Let's say you're down to around 140,000 people, and let's say now you're down to around 50,000 accounts. You had much more than that initially. Then you add market dynamics. We were in the middle of COVID, first wave, when there was a budget freeze. Sorry to give you that memory again, but it was very difficult for salespeople to sell anything at that point of time. But
Yeah,
if there were companies that were still hiring at that time. Maybe there were only 2% of your TAM that was still hiring. But at Slintel, what I was telling my customers and my prospects was that, hey, I can help you find out all the companies that will not tell you that we're on a budget freeze. And my hack for that is that I will tell you companies that are still hiring. And they loved it. They were actually finding a lot of success because any company that was hiring definitely did not have a tool freeze as well. If anything, it really worked out for their business. They were actually selling pretty well in that business. So, what our competitors were doing was trying to tell them that, hey, these industries are doing well. So why don't you sell to pharma? Why don't you sell to? But we were telling them, within pharma, that there could be people are just buying medicines around COVID. There could be a company that has nothing to do with that, right? I mean, why don't you want to reach out to companies that are hiring, which basically means that, they're growing in this phase and really want to talk to them. And they could figure out SaaS companies. They could figure out a lot of B2C companies that were thriving, and they didn't have to limit themselves to pharma and hospitals and, things like that, because potentially those were not even the industries that their product was made for. So within your TAM of these 150,000 companies, what are the companies that have a suitable market condition? So in today's scenario, which companies are still picking funding? Which companies are still hiring? We're back to that stage. You need that intent layer on top of your accounts. So you now down to, let's say, 20,000 accounts that are still hiring or just raised a round of funding in the last 6 months. So they will have money in the bank, and have the technographic intent signal around your integration partners as well. Now you go one level deeper and you say, out of all of these companies, which companies are using my competitors or not using my competitors? You just segment them into two. Now you have two different segments. One to whom you will send a competitive case study. One to whom you will send a case study around, hey, looks like you're not using anything to solve for this problem, right? So using my competitors or one of my competitors versus not using any of my competitors. You go, and so you have now two different accounts that you will reach out to on 2 different days, right? And the 2 different messaging and 2 different cadences. And now at a person level, you segment these people into people who have recently moved to an organization, so they potentially will not be making a decision in the next few days, versus people who've been there, done that, and we have been in the organization for the last few months. So you send a more aggressive pitch to people who've been taking decisions in this organization for a while, versus people who've just switched their jobs and probably are just finding their way in their organization. And the good news about intent is that now it has reached the skill and the interest level. So within this, you can further segment this database into people who like dogs versus people who like wine,
pets,
right? I mean, so one set of accounts could be dogs and pets, right? You can send them memes and gifs, and you know that these kind of people have fun likes or fun interests that they've mentioned on their social media. So I can be funny with them in my approach. I can probably send them my funniest cadence and probably add a dog gif on top of that as well, or a meme around pets, and that will definitely crack this person up, versus this person who is into wine and looks like a more uptight person with the kind of interest and skills that the person has.
potentially I will use a more case study approach or a white paper approach to, get this person interested into my business. So, just understand the interest, segment them by interest, segment them by, skills. And, if you're actually having a product that sells to engineers, good luck to you, because, no matter if I'm a data engineer or I'm an ML engineer or I'm a backend engineer, my job title will say software engineer. So if you really want to target data scientists, they might not have data scientists in their title. That the title might be VP of engineering, but they might be data scientists in their organization. So you might want to go to a skill level for that person and further segment that data into, whether the person should be receiving data, a case study which is specific for data scientists or not, based on the skills that they've mentioned on different social media. So you can actually go this deep. But all we are doing is, this is my TAM, this is my list, this is my account. Let me go focus on all of them. So you're not coming down to the top 100 accounts based on your business priorities. And if you are a business that, can only sell to companies that are also hiring, so you're into HR tech, you're into, one of those businesses, then you're doing injustice by not looking at the data that is clearly signaling that you shouldn't be reaching out to these 97 companies that are on hiring freeze right now. And so your response rates at 3% are actually pretty good, because at the first layer, you were just reaching out to companies that were not even hiring. So your response rates will obviously shoot, because you're just, weeding out the companies that will never buy, in this market condition for your business. They just don't have the appetite.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, like with everything that's happening, in the economy right now, this is this is only going to get more important. As you start to really think about this world, you think about what's going to happen next, and you think about then the need to really get within those organizations. It's like, gosh, when you think about these kind of stupid huge buckets, fintech, like do you have any idea how many different businesses fit into fintech? Right, I can't even tell you how many. There's a lot, right? And so I think that this stuff just gets more important, more and more and more and more. So let's talk about, okay, so like let's say if we narrow it down. So I've got a better idea of the who I'm targeting. I've got a better idea of the company sets again within the industry that are potentially a fit. I've got an idea of the exact companies based on firmographics and some of these very specific details. How can reps better engage? How can reps, and I think of engagement, there's personalization, which is personalize this thing specific to you. There's relevancy, which is like you said, buyer persona. And I really feel like that relevancy when done really well, it works extremely well. That, the issue is, and you talked about this in the very beginning, I just feel like most organizations are really not pounding into the team, who do we sell to? How do they make money? Like, what do these people really, what does this job actually do? I remember, 10, 15 years ago, that was the very first question with every rep. How does this company make money? What does this person do? And I feel like we've kind of, it's like, gosh, we really want to hit more so much, with these tools that let us hit send all. So how can reps use this data for better personalization or relevancy? What are some of the best practices that you're seeing? How are they also then using it to better multi-thread?
Yeah. So I think more information means more, variables for you to fill in your personalized template. Or if you're actually writing the email from the scratch, more information actually means you can talk to them about so many things. And going deeper into the personalization, I strongly feel that your first email should not be as personalized as your second or third email, because your first email might not even be landing in the inbox.
That's right. They're just going to hit archive, or even if it does, we're just hardwired. I get that first email archived, unless it's like, crazy.
Yeah. And I think most of the reps today are, personalizing the first message or the first email. And I mean, you might want to reconsider that and probably potentially personalize your second or the third email based on the number of times the person has interacted with your first email, the clicks that you're receiving in your first email. And those are the signals that should lead to, sending a hyper-personalized email. And in the hyper-personalized email, you need to use all the signals that you use to first, segment this person into your high priority TAM, which you are focusing on. So you should tell him and flaunt that, hey, these are all the things that signal the fact that you should be buying my product. You've already done that math. You've already done all of that research. That's why you're prospecting. If you heard all of the things that I've told you today on this call, you potentially have done the right thing by reaching out to this prospect. You're not spamming him or her. You're telling this prospect that, hey, Mr. Prospect, or hey, Miss Prospect, I have done my research about the fact that you need my product, and this is why. And you just basically flaunt. This is your moment to flaunt all the research that you did to reach this particular prospect. And the best part is that you can actually personalize at scale if you've done this you followed this approach, because all of them have the same tools. From a technographic intent standpoint, you can mention the tools that they're using. All of them like dogs. All of them belong to that geography that you belong to, and all of them potentially received a funding round recently or are hiring for a certain role at this point of time, because you segmented them in a certain bucket based on that. So now when the personalized message is going out, it might just be through outreach or sales loft or one of those tools, because you know about the fact that all of them belong to a certain bucket and all of them have these similar traits. But when I read this message, it will look as if you've actually done a lot of effort in personalizing it. But I think you can probably add a layer of hyper personalization and actually write something super personal to this prospect as well. And I think that's what makes the job a lot more interesting. As a BDR, I personally feel that if I'm just sending emails to outreach and sales loft, I'm not being creative enough in my job, and I just adding a human touch of personalization to it just makes my job a little more interesting for BDRs. So just do that, right? And just show the fact that you really care about this particular email, and it's not one of those other emails that landed in this person's inbox today. So how does your email stand out, right? It is actually by showing the fact that you've done your level of research and why you think this organization absolutely needs to speak to you right now.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's and I really love the other thing that you said. Stop over person. I feel like we personalize the first email, then it's like we just stop. We're like, I tried, and then we just go into like the send all hell, of like just like, well, I sent one personalized email, so I think it's such a good call out too. As well. And then what about, multi-threading? How do you think about getting different groups, or like, how do you then use some of this data to like better multi-thread?
So I think, again, what I said in the beginning was that you need to be where the buyer is. That's what the future of sales is. The buyer will potentially no longer come to you. In 2025, you might not see buyers coming to your website to sign up for a meeting. You need to be wherever your buyer is. So I sell to salespeople, and salespeople are most active on LinkedIn. But if I was selling to engineering people, I would not even log into my LinkedIn, because my prospects are not logging into LinkedIn at all. So basically, you need to understand what community, what social media platform, what is the nature of your buyers. And yesterday I was going through a very interesting LinkedIn post which said, you should potentially think about hiring 25% of your buyers into your company, because they will actually tell you more about where they are and where they're more active and what is the best community that. So for example, you might not need a finance head right now in your organization, but if you sell to finance, you better have a finance head in your organization, just to understand where is the community active and where would he or she receive the emails more proactively or receive the message more proactively. So we know that our reps are most active on Rep Genius, so we would be all over Rep Genius. We know that our and we would sponsor with them. We would do joint activities with them, because we know our audience is listening to us when we're there. But would it make sense for an engineering product to do that? Not at all. But then find out where your audience is most active and be available there. And if LinkedIn makes most sense, then leverage it like that. Cold calling may or may not work, again based on what kind of audience you sell to, but you absolutely should double down on cold calling if you think your buyer is active on phone and would receive that call. So I mean, just leverage the channels that your buyers are most active on and be present everywhere the buyer is, right? So think like an engineer if you're selling to engineers, think like a marketer if you're selling to marketing, and think what kind of podcast would he or she listen to? Can I be a part of that podcast? Can I really sponsor that podcast? Can I sponsor a particular event with a community that daily is active with my buyers. Just think about that and be available there.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. That and just think about the other thing too, I'll just call out is the difference in communities between people within the same company.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if I'm trying to maybe get a groundswell, that's where, Rev Genius or another community at the executive level, maybe I'm engaging with Scaled or somebody like, like there's different places that you'll see different people interact with. And so just having a really good understanding of that, at least for me, I think is really critical.
Correct. Absolutely. And we can take a question quickly as well. How many times is too much? That's a question we get.
Yeah, I got that one over there. I tried to do a quick answer to it, but yeah, I want to hear your take.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, you need to understand. I think your sales engagement tool gives you that signal very quickly. So as soon as you see that your open rates are reducing, you need to keep cutting the number of activities that you're doing for a particular prospect. So let's say after your 8th touch point, you see that the activity responses are going pretty low, reduce it to 7, reduce it to 6. But you need to just figure out what is the balance with your buyer. Where is it that you're seeing that the open rates are going horribly down? Where is it that you're seeing the call pickup rates going horribly down, right? That is where you stop. And breakup emails are absolutely necessary. I think breakup emails work beautifully for me, and try to make your breakup email as creative as you can. I see a lot of responses that we get after our breakup emails. So no one wants to go through a breakup. And if I'm on the edge, on the fence with whether I should respond to you or not, I'm liking your email so far, but you're now breaking up with me. I'm like, hey, wait a second. Why don't you reach out?
Let me ask you about this though. Like, what do you guys put in that? Because here's the thing that we've seen the data, again, because we work with hundreds of companies, we see a very high response rate to the breakup email, but a very low meeting conversion rate. Like we've seen some of these that get ridiculous, but the answer is always like, hey, appreciate it. Man, I'm not interested. As opposed to like, it's actually, so like we've seen a lot of false positives there. It's like, 30% response rate, but the conversion rate is like 1% or 2%. Yeah. And so like, what are you guys putting? I mean, just to get real tactical for this, it's a little off track, but I think a lot of people are probably asking, what do you put in that?
Yeah. So, we try to get, a feedback for ourselves in that breakup email. So we try the best email that we possibly have as our breakup email. So potentially, my reps are pretty creative. They would even go to the extent of writing a poem for the prospect, right? We would have a standard poem. We would, just change a little 2 sentences there to make it look like, it was personalized to the prospect. And the prospect would be like, hey, this person actually went to the extent of writing a poem. Now, what do you want from me in return? I can't buy your product, obviously. And that's why and you can't change the fact that they just don't need to buy. But what do you need? So, we would ask for feedback. We would ask for a referral. We would ask for a time when we can come back to you. And you would be surprised that, with that 30% response rate that you're talking about, a lot of times you're right. The people who need to buy might not change, because even though your email is fantastic, I don't need to buy your product. But can I refer you to someone that I think potentially is looking to buy a product? And that happens very often with us, because, the person appreciates the effort that has gone into this entire cadence. And now that you're breaking up with me and asking for a referral in exchange, it's a soft CTA if you look at it. And
I like that. So you're asking for, you're saying like you're doing the breakup-y stuff. And if you have an example, I'd love to share it too. Like if you guys don't mind, like if you can drum one up, I'd love to drop it in the chat or something too. But I love that that CTA is a great one, right? I've kind of find that I see it done very cheesy, if I'm being candid. It's like, let me know, it's like if you got sat on by a hippopotamus, or if this happened, or if there's someone else on your team. And I feel like when you leave it that generic, they're like, dude, I'm not going to subject my teammate to this bullshit. But if you do it in a way that's thoughtful, you're like, look, I've sent this. Obviously, this is not your world, and what I like to do here to kind of trump it up is I'll add in a couple of names from people on their team. Is this something that, John Smith is more, he's digital ads, or is that Susan Reagan? And that shows like, hey, this is a breakup email, but man, I'm like being specific too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to pull that up and I'll send it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if you have it, great. If not, don't worry about it. So cool. So as we, we're gonna take a little bit, like maybe a couple more questions here. If we've got anyone else, feel free to drop them. We're gonna be wrapping up here in a sec. We've got one here from Kaylin. What's up, Kaylin? Hope you're doing great. Kaylin actually works on our team, so what is up. Is it more important to personalize certain touch points or personalize all? We talked about that one a little bit. So you covered that one already. So we answered that live. How many times we answered that? So feel free, guys. I've got maybe one more question. Feel free to drop some more questions in the comments as well too. So my last kind of like question here is, what's next? You know, this is one of my favorite things to kind of ask and kind of think about is, okay, there obviously, at least for me, I'll tell you kind of my thought. We have to stop focusing on more as the way to hit our number. It's not gonna happen. Like, give up all hope. If you think the answer is my team needs 500 accounts versus 100, you're playing a losing race. It's a race to the bottom. It's a race to either personalization, using relevancy, which I'll put technographic in that relevant bucket, to where it's, you know, it's like, look, I know these things about you. I can see them, whether it's I researched you online or I did some basic research on, you know, what your company, you know, tech stack or what you did before. To me, what's next is that, you know, we are trying to push our clients aggressively away from measuring activities as the lead of the lead metric, and instead moving it to first outcome. We call it meaningful conversation. A meaningful conversation means you're in the process of booking a meeting with someone, or you're getting referred to the right person. So it's saying, look, if John can get to his number in the equivalent of 50 activities, and Susan can get there in 25, who cares? You know, I think that the old mantra for sales is like, well, if she can do 25, then why doesn't she do 50 like John? It's like, well, because hers are more customized or relevant. And so she takes that extra time of going to actually get meetings that book with less activity. So guess what? She's actually way more effective because she only needs 100 accounts. And so to me, I feel like we have to move away from bulk activities as the tippy top of the funnel. It's like, again, any sales leader watching this, any sales rep, how's that working for you right now? I know it's not working. And so for me, I'm going to go more tactical on the philosophy side. You know, you all are on the tech, you know, on the tech side and the process side. So I'd love to hear from you. What's next? You know, what do you feel like, you know, is kind of the next iteration of this, of how we do, you know, more and more better targeting and those types of things?
Yeah, I think we need to be paranoid about the fact that we might not be allowed to do any, you know, mass emailing in the future. We need to be paranoid about the fact that our delivery rates will go even lower with Google and, you know, Outlook coming together. We need to be paranoid about the fact that a lot of other countries will also adapt GDPR kind of guidelines.
It's happening. I'm actually surprised. I don't know about you. I thought that was going to be one of the first things Biden did. I thought one of the first things Biden was going to do was enact, you know, some type of privacy law. Obviously, some other companies are doing some of their own stuff, you know, on paper. But
so I think
keep going. Sorry.
Paranoia. I think with that paranoia, right? We need to obviously tell ourselves that selling will not stop. You know, buying and selling relationship will always happen. Even in Europe, outbound selling did not stop after GDPR came in. But what started was, you know, what stopped definitely was spamming. And what started was a lot more personalization, a lot more meaningful conversations, a lot more human-to-human interactions around, hey, this is what I do today, and this is why I feel you should be looking at me. Does it make sense, right? We're going back to the era wherein you had to have an interaction for someone to really have you know, some interest in what you do, you know, from a personal level or a professional level. So you need to start your conversations with why you're doing what you're doing and why you think you should be having this conversation with your prospect today. So I think today, as of today, you love it or you hate it. Personalization will be the only way to go forward, go ahead with your job in the future, because, you know, I don't know how outreach and sales will evolve themselves when hyper personalization becomes a thing and everyone is only prospecting to 50 people in a month and not more than that, and potentially trying to get 5 meetings out of that and 2 closures out of that. Like, I see those kind of conversion rates as the future. You know, you're prospecting only 50 people in a month. you're getting 5 to 8 people coming on a meeting and 2 of them actually end up buying, versus you end up closing only 2 deals in a month even today, but for that you're reaching out to 500 or even 5,000 people, and based on the conversion rates that we have today, closing only 2. So I think companies will continue to thrive, selling will continue to happen, but it'll be a lot more personal and spam build reduce, which basically means that buyers will be getting messages from sellers that are confident that there's a strong reason why we're reaching out to you, and only if you have a strong reason, will your email deliver to your prospects in the future. So Google will try to gate everyone and anyone who's trying to reach out to 4,000, 5,000 people in a month in the future. So be paranoid about it.
That's going to happen.
Start personalizing.
And it's going to, go ahead. Yeah, no, hop in. I was just going to add to that. I was going to say, I think that the other thing we have to realize is as Google and Microsoft's AI gets better and better and better, that number is going to keep coming down, because they're going to start to recognize the signals at probably in the hundreds, if not like early thousands. And so, I would just say, like, I think it's going to continue to get more difficult to get through, and that as their AI gets better at filtering, it's going to make it even more tough.
Yeah. Sure. And I've added the poem actually in this, in the host and panelist channel. I think what I want to close this with is the fact that you need to be creative. Whatever your creativity is, right? I mean, not everyone would sing, not everyone would draw, not everyone would be good at playing a guitar. But whatever it is, right, just use that creativity to add to your personalization. So this example is of a BDR who was good at writing poems or writing, funny, songs, and she couldn't play a guitar. But I have a BDR who plays a guitar as his closing, email or his breakup emails. He would probably record this version of it and send it as a recorded song, and he would sing it out with a guitar. So whatever as a BDR, whatever your creativity is, just bring that out in your work, and that will really stand out in the inbox of the buyer who's probably getting 50 such emails every day. You want to stand out in that inbox, and this kind of stuff really does the trick. And you just need to work out on your creativity. And if you think you don't have any such creativity that can help you be successful as in your BDR role, probably just click a picture of something funny. I had a rep sending picture of his nephew on his work desk, saying that, hey, this email is sent by him, something of that sort, right? Just stand out, right? And just record yourself more often, use videos more often, send video messages as one of the cadence steps. Use all of that. Just stand out in your prospects inbox, I would say.
It's so spot on, man. Standing out right now is really not that hard, my friends. We're talking about this. Like, I mean, again, a lot of you are in organizations, and I want you to just look around. See, my lights went off here. Just look around at what your peers are doing and multiply that times thousands. And so you got to think, if they're just doing these things, if you just do anything that you just said, you're going to stand out. You're going to win. And so, again, I think that's a good kind of note. Let me see if we had any other kind of final. Nope, I think we got all the questions answered, so we're good there. So I think it's a great way to kind of wrap up there. On our side too, just so kind of everyone's aware, if you're in San Francisco or if you're in New York, we are actually going to be in person talking about this topic, sales and technology, and what modern organizations are doing. San Francisco is next week, the 16th. I'm really pumped about that. We've got a mix, kind of more tactical sales engagement mixer, and then a sales leadership mixer afterward, fireside chat with myself and Lars Nielsen in San Francisco, and then we'll be in New York the week after. So make sure to register. If you can't make it, then we've got a sales technology webinar next week with myself and our practice lead, who will kind of talk through some of the sales technology and what companies are using, et cetera. So if you can't make it in person, make sure to join us for that too. Anything kind of cool coming up for you, Anupreet?
No, I think all the best using all of these tactics, and there's a huge difference between there's a big difference between an email that we get every single day and an email that stands out, and most of us as leaders respond to the emails that stand out. So please use that. Nothing really. I think I put a lot of content on my LinkedIn. Please be sure to add me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive. Just try me out with any questions that you have outside of this as well. I'll be more than happy to respond to you one-on-one on LinkedIn. So please go ahead and add me on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to take some of your personal questions one-on-one as well.
Love it. Awesome. Connect. We dropped the link in there as well too. Make sure to connect with my man. He does put out a lot of great content. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Send this to your sales leader. You're going to get an email copy of this, or it's going to be on my profile. Send this to your sales operations. Send this to your sales operations leader. What we're telling you is going to generate massively different results for you. It is going to, again, we did a survey, 82% of teams are missing outbound numbers. It's because of the shit we're talking about now. And so take the time, invest in doing something different. It's already not working. So I really appreciate it. I thought the insights and data were fantastic. So appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one next week with my man, Brandon Jones. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.